Any Buddha. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Thus free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality. To the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Page 15. The Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagawan was dwelling on massive Vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perfection. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate para gate para samgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25. Osashi Purki Chukshin Metok Chamari Rabling Shi Nidegan Padi Sangye Shindu Meteo Gidra Kunanda Shingla Chopashok Jetsun Lama Dampakinam Kichokukala Gyense Chinjigne Jita Sampe Duche Cinema Lazabage Chuki Chapababtuso Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kanyayatayami. Page 27.
Zanye Jada Soji Shonan La Janju Pada Dane Jas Take Jujin Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benji Sanje Do Baraisho Sanje Jada Soji Shonan La Janju Pada Dane Jasum Take Jujin Jebe Sonam Je Dola Benji Sanje Do Baraisho Sanje Jada Soji Shonan Chanjo Bada Dane Jasanje Dagi Chijin Jibe Sonan Shola Benje Sanje Drobore Sho Hanga de Zenye Zave Do Danje Bawaye de Beshine de Deve Kodam de la Chatel Donye Nye Zane Jove La Shije de Kanje de Chana Bemo de Jazala So de Zashin de Ludush One day the Lama Ramajan and the geography meditation, Katin Chibagune Jizande, Kozanda, Jungo to this. Chanjo Rinpoche, Maje Banaji, Jivanya, Mamewanya, Konevande, February shows. Adanzo Gulong, Komji Cap, Tanda, Tiringanzo di Lobzenia de Mish, Tirine Somaji, Susu, Simbadi, Saratoyak Chedu, and Lobjon, Simba Samachene, Tirine, Mission, Pendo. 가즈 투두 치도와 지기 디치야 체도네 심디 교단 거 디치도네 알로존 인기여 텐제 꾸노야고 직제.
So first we'll do motivation meditation. So you should be listening to this, with this idea of clarifying your mind, developing your mind, almost like cleaning it, making it pure. And this should be done with this motivation of benefiting others. So this should be your motivation for listening to the teachings.
다 가보금 다 티링연자 디 롭존 시기 중화디. 베케고 상부인 카페고 쿠카페야고인 텐제와.
So now I feel that you're very fortunate, rejoice and feel very fortunate that you have this wonderful opportunity, that it's, incredibly valuable to be able to study these teachings.
oi da ha jinzo lonzi tai ves da
Did you do the memorization?
Chigyarda.
Okay, show us.
1 2 3
Just isolations.
ah that is this because of the how many online people who's really okay nang에 di 양자 저 직자거디 식디 배뉴가 첨부래 식디 가서 저기 근데 용하라서 잘라든데 통디 잘라 통고이나 가 돈 딱다디 식디 돈다디 딱다리고 로 근데 돈다들이 아니 식디다 다로 가서 그래 또뭐 식디랑 단다 참만남데 좋아 그러면 초랑 반디 쳐다 제가 반디 쳐다 참만남데 자와라 근데 이제 아니 말아서 뒤에 요하다지 망보지기야 배배게 낭배 추디 별로 중대배서 시대 말어 tuk사데 윤에 송도 자오름신 나렌다 개베시 준스타 반디 쳐다 아니 나렌다 개바 전부 제가 네게 중라 공도고였다
So it's a very powerful verse because basically explains how we perceive things, how it is that we come to understand phenomena, right? Things. And it comes from this profound text, Exposition on Valid Cognition by Chandrakirti. Now, this text is very profound and very valued in the Buddhist tradition and especially also in the Tibetan tradition, and it came down from the lander down through all the Tibetan masters to teachers like today, like the Dalai Lama. So it originated, Chandrakirti was originally a student in the Lander monastery.
다디 전다데 갈라서나 간징우고 란신지 라랑 오라는지 퉁외시는 거 도발한 템버 젠스 간징우고 시도 오부군 그란신데서 그래 오부군 그란신데 아니 코란 당분에서 될 딱다 내대요 레스 네그레스 간징우 라랑 오라네 직직을 파돼요 말레스 다오나 단다데랑 저 포바다 메도다 추다 메도인데 책도 와서는 근데 제로도 왔어 이 대화 말레스 퉁외신지거다 대화 mix 차로서 mix 차요 말레스 디 가르스나 퉁외신지거다라서 오버 릭툼바데 추 아주 다 미서 포바디 미서래와 포바디 미서도 되나게 되나 자 포바디 연구 말어 콜로 사게 제디 툼번 오버디 거로 퉁외신지거다라서 오버 릭툼베 오버디 제디 추루루
알라스티 착탕도 릭톤
릭미툼바데
디 릭미톤 발라서
릭툼바데 사레나 사디 추루루 chen 포바디 서르다 릭미툼바데 연구야 말 릭툼바데 서네 아니 수 포바스 다 도발한 데마진데 라 포바스 내가 포바스 민다샤레스다 다 포바디 차스나는 아니 그나게 제도 가시에 메돌 도그래 가시에 추난 도그래 가시에 메난 도그래 가시에 간주 칼라나나 도그래 가시에 간주 수분나나 도그래 포바디게 제 마차스나나 로주종에 제를 포바디 제직체는 간주 되게 이날다 마시와 되게 있는 간주 칼라 vegetable 난 로제 간주 카나 레야냥가요 어딘데 릴랍디티 템바 쉬비도 아닌 거네 템바레도 아디 템바 쉬비지레도 알아
So to go over the meaning of the verse, so read it out again. Because all things naturally exist with their own individual essential natures, they are dependent on conceptual isolates of a similar or dissimilar class. So that all things naturally exist. Na is also more like to abide, right? So things naturally abide or exist. And in their own individual natures means they're not mixed, right? They don't, the substance don't, like the particles don't mix together, but of a similar or dissimilar class means that, you know, like the particles that come together to form this cup, it's like a earth or a clay cup, right? It's not. A decimal class would be like metal or something like that, right? So they're not mixed together, but they come together to form like a similar class. And on this basis, then they're determined by conceptual isolates, like we isolate this thing as being the cup. But when that cup breaks, then the substances then dissipate out and absorb into other things, like maybe into, flowers or the earth and so forth. And if we kind of hang around long enough and don't die, it might come out that these particles are in the food we eat and become part of our body and so forth. So this is really true. This is the way things work.
네 콘소카시에 치마데 신도앙에 렌저는 디지 칸단 칸레 된 도바티 규진 리티 겨와지 동주와다라시스다 김진진데 인장서거래 디치스 김진진데 인장 응오보 칸단 칸게 된 아니 도바스라윈데 페나 포바스가 명데 따연데 포마임바 딱바 강바 모다 딘데 주도네 포바 임바데 차르스다 거라
So, Member Mebiso.
Po Mayimba le Dogne, Powa Chichares.
Okay, right.
So then being a Powa, the Shia, the Canadian was in a co Mayimba, the Yapal Logje, and the Yimba the Sushebadi. Moboka Mingta were Ming, the Kola Yin, Mayin, Yer, Mayo said to the by Mingtashin, the Powa Yimba, Po Mayimba, the Don, Powa Yimba Charwa. Or the opposite Shia, the Yungi or Resta Kandara.
So then it goes on to say, for that reason, anything that possesses a cause is differentiated through conceptual isolates. Owing to differentiating sets, comprehensions arise, so they are applied. So this is the reason how we understand things. So this isolate, basically, Dokpa or isolate, is the elimination of everything that's not that thing. So this isolate of the cup eliminates everything that's not cup. So it's the opposite. Remember we talked about the opposite of not being cup? So because it's the opposite of not being cup, then you come back to cup. But that's how we apprehend things. That's how we comprehend things. And when we eliminate everything else, we understand that this is this isolate of being cup.
저자다 경제 인자다 포바디 포 마임벌레 수도 이제 디지 차와 간시주 관계 고와주와 델레 신지 뉴마이 되나다 되나와 하던데 인자서 그래 아니 포바디 포바직로 와다 포바직 아니 포바직 포바니 포바단 다데 포바다직 포바다 다데 대단 포바디 다데로 와 경제 인자 콜레 도르도 타고 이마인게 다데 포바디 직제 대비직 군이 다데 남샤디 연구도 하다 어디 용벌에스다 간다
So then it goes on to, therefore, understanding arises owing to distinctions and attributes. By other means lack this capacity, thus they stand as distinct objects. So this essentially means that these isolates stand as distinct objects. So, for example, you have a cup here and a book over here. Now, those are distinct. Right? So through this understanding is how we can have these distinct objects, like tate, distinct or different.
Yeah, that day, Tanda Chigdi, that day, Omadi Jedi Chans Simaduna, Tangi Gandhi, 16 to a Kanjungu and Shinji Rang, on a Timisha to Well and Tempa said. That day, Chigdi, Niana Tigritash, that you make me to Naya or Yamaduna, Titambudding it. She's on dear Samadambayina. Samadambayina, Tandangaranzo, Pe Lamsa, shit with the York. Oh, did the Risha something? Did the Risha? And so the Tanga to you table that table. Tabling burning but the Yorota, tabling but in the Koran. Tambu me to Rusura. University, Koran, Zed is the part, Roshak Doko. She's on ranking all negre like the Dembarishas, Mone, see, Tandang Nubjog Sirina, Zeg Tinshuk down. Kushuk Sira, 210 Nuba, Pan Bizaja, Nubari Yorwa. Okay. 210 the Zosnan and Pa Doshago. 210 Nuba Zosnan, Pa Doshago. She's on to Z Nuba Chijung, Pa 10, 210 Chagi in the Nuba the Zor to do any Kuran Tambu de Dada de Roya. Okay. Is on the modern counterphysics share the Taka de Togorta, the Taka Regorta, Tick de Rigorta. She did go to Mango, Ditaka, Dina, Lata Mango Jabeyorda.
So, like these other verses, it's very good to read as well and learn and listen and understand. Because through reading these, through hearing them, or just through reading them, you can come to quite clearly understand. Like going over the first verse again when it talks about, how these things come together, right? Like if we take the example of this book, it's maybe a bit older, and these substances that make it up, the particles of the substances, are drawn together. And so like it's man-made, so somebody makes this book. And at that point, the substances kind of hold together. And when that power of them holding together is no longer there, then they dissipate. And then they go off and become part of something else. So, in modern physics, they talk about how these particles can attract and repel, right? So when the power to attract is no longer there, then these particles start to dissipate. And then they dissipate out and they go off and...
코란 데스데 당부 데스 당부 용스데 파도셔. 라랑 오나네 코란 데스데 다다 도셔고 봐. 라랑 코란 데스데 디스플레이를 요머 디스플레이 요머.
No, disappear mare dissipate.
디스페이스나?
So the namdo degi mare chik 파도.
파도네 당부 코란 용스데 파데 그랬어. 라랑 오라네세 틱디.
Okay, so go like they go off once they dissipate. They go off into their own individual abodes again, right? Like they'll abide in their own, essence or nature. So they might not, when dissipate, they're no longer attracted to these other particular particles, but they still exist in their own essential entity, right? And when that attraction is gone, and then they dissipate out. And this is very similar to what modern science says, This is there's a lot of meaning that can be clearly understood from this verse.
And then dogwalane temba change, ngobo riktumba dene dogwal temba sade samdambi na ta mingdam jirwa tanda de jur chane phoba chaso aya shindaji chane je shindaji chane medo do charo ko yang je shindaji chane ko yang mi ludu luganzu ludu charo ra nzu mi ludu ma ro phoba di nang je de sansan la medo charo sansan tep charo sansan mi lu charo chana de nge mi lu chade mi se tep chade tep se medo chade medo ko dobo yuru ko da ming yuru ko da ra inde dobo shu da de dang de dang wene re do ra
So this, for example, at the moment these substances make up this cup, and this name is cup, but these particles, these substances can go off and can become part of something else, like a flower or a body or a book. So at that point they exist within another composition, and then a different name can be given to that collection of those substances, right? So this is, things aren't fixed within this isolate. They can dissipate, they can go off and become part of something else, and so forth, the particles.
And so sansan sajal samdam mina ngoma lo sumju lo shipju khona Chandrakirti di imji space re ro khangba dimish yo mar mewo de par thongra ta dene lo nyushu de lo ta lo nyushu sabje zagu to wi de lo ro de ane dene kombo lo nyushu sabje to go 27 or 8 something like that. And then the ming de zo ane de komba ja ando to ta de tangan zo Chandrakirti se cha de do ra 다야 로 배자니 제질이야 지진네디야 사자 동보로 차 시그라 제산다고 최설 삼단의 세월에다 파저 요차 도과차 민규 유르거더라
So 40 years ago, so we can see how this was the way things exist and how things change, because like 40 years ago this Chandrakirti Center, this wasn't here, this was probably just empty land, right? And 27 years, later, or 28 years later, or now all the stuff's been built, right? Over the last 27, 28 years, and then it has this name, Chandrakirti, and has all these funny people living in it and so forth, right? But, when you look in the future, 100, 200 years from now, who knows? It'd probably just be empty space again.
Right?
Or it might be humongous.
University empty space.
We don't know. It could be some scholastic university, or it could be a whole lot of nothing again. So we just don't know. Right. Everything changes.
Question.
I have a question. So what exactly is the isolate? Because I think you said before it goes back, the particles go back into like other isolates, like the flower or the body. So what is the isolate? Is the particle the isolate, or is a thing an isolate?
So the dogpa karire, the dogpa di mabore or the zerek, the dogpa karire.
Dogba said the ming.
Yeah, so it's just a name. Dogpa is just a name.
Cup.
Cup would be the isolate, or book's the isolate, or you're the isolate.
So then is thing, when we say the thing exists with, and it's dependent on the isolate. So a thing like a cup exists where the isolates is the cup. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit unsure whether.
Well, maybe saying going into another isolate is not quite correct. An isolate's just a name.
The question is a bit too young.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if that's in the bit. So we're just the question is we're talking about the isolate and what is this isolate as opposed to the actual thing, the other things. And in the book it talks about conceptual isolates. So the sambe dokpa labgira the peyig hago yunmen hago the conceptual isolates the dokpa. Tokbe dogba. That does strange into
Tokbe tagoro. Tokba the tokbe fatara. Ming the tokbe tashin euro.
Yeah, the tokba the puyik the tokba yumana.
Tokba said the lado dan togato dan raduda tok logarda.
Yeah, it doesn't actually have conceptual in the
Tokba the Ming Tokba.
Yeah, but Dogba is the name, and you could say it's conceptually named. I mean, but that's implicit. It's not actually explicitly expressed.
Conceptual said the Tokbal Komare.
Tokba.
Tokba dan Tokba logare.
Yeah.
Tokba la di.
No. The Tokba Dogba. The
Tokbe Tokba na Tokba Koran Kore. Table Koya Mare. Tokbe Ming dira. And then also power Tokba the Pobe Ming dira. What they call.
Right. So when you say conceptual isolate, you're thinking more of the mind, right? But it's not the mind, it's the actual cup itself, right? It's the cup or the book or whatever. That's what it's referring to here.
Kola dogba la go de kharela nan dogba la de gasna kap maimbale ton kap yimba cha odi la go.
So when you eliminate, so what dogpa means, isolate. To isolate something means when you eliminate everything else, then you isolate that. Okay, so so I mean, technically, when I say goes into other isolates, it's not wrong, but it may be.
Dilia povas malavche, pove tokbala de kuju chimura, pov maimbale do ko yimba de charo.
Yeah, so if you say when you just say the cup, I mean, and you say the isolate of the cup, when you say the isolate, what you mean is you've eliminated everything else, right? So essentially, it's the same kind of thing, but the meaning is, the connotation is, through eliminating everything else, you arrive at the cup. So this is a concept in our conceptual mind. This is what we do when we see the cup. We eliminate everything else and come back to perceiving cup.
제가 삼롱 오다야도 와데 디야고 하고나 아니 제메 동니래야 다 ngobe나루로 동니래 삼다야다 ngobe네루시엔 편도지 모래도.
So it's good to understand this, because when it comes later, when you want to understand the nature of how things are or emptiness of these things, it's very useful to understand this type of thing.
나 저런지 야고 메모리즈 야고 신도 다 차등 비스켓이죠.
Yeah. Okay. So since you did such a good job memorizing, we can drink tea and eat biscuits. Okay, so there's a question first. Does this lack of capacity mean the capacity to be an ice? I'm lost. Where's lack of capacity? I don't know how to say this in Tibetan. You'll have to give me some context. Oh, by other means like this. Therefore, understanding arises owing to distinctions and attributes by other means like this capacity. So the Shalaka Sumba like this capacity dipaya ganda yomare. So the nangla the like this capacity draware the Tokpa Shemba other means is like Tab Shemba di nupi di draw nupi yomare di tondak di draware di sik tak tak
티지죠 가지고 딜레 신배 뉴 마인스 라고
Numayan di la Shemba Numayan
딜레 제가
di tondak karira
딜 딜레 제가 먼저 퍼버스 다 명도 다용거로 또배 퍼버스 다용도 퍼버 마인바디 수 세제 퍼버 인바디 코르고도 고싱도 또배 먼저 퍼버스 라비인도 퍼버 마인바디 디파제 네 퍼버 인바디 수 하고고도 디하고즈 딜레 셴바 찍 요마레서 왔다 다른 레서 왔다
Kare Shemba Yomana di la
베나 퍼버디 하고인도 퍼버 마인바 슈마단 두조 단 칭단 두조 파세제 퍼버 인바디 수 하고고도 시고고도 또고도 또그 딜레 셴바 찍 요마레서 왔다
Oh, okay, so basically this lack this capacity means that how we isolate this cup or understand this cup is by eliminating everything else. So when we perceive this cup, we eliminate book, we eliminate paper, we eliminate pen, right? So through the elimination of everything else, we arrive at the isolate of cup. Now, other methods or other things don't have this power, doesn't arrive at this isolate. That's how you arrive at this cup, isolate of cup.
그래서 거하고도
It's a little bit tricky, no?
이다다 여 삼 다당 안에 네 틱디 고모그러면서 한서 다다 대당 안저 소외 나라 여래 먼저 네 퍼버스 시운디 붙다 맨날 이 추주에서 시운디 추주에 퍼 많이 하고거든 퍼 많이 하고는 아 추주 인버 시고거든 시주 딜레 셴바 찍 요 말에 시고래 시주 딜레 셴바 찍 요 말에
Kari chucha?
추주의 시운디 추주 많이 디퍼 추주의 퍼 말에 추주의 대 말에 이게 시운거든
Okay.
딜레 신주직 요 말했어요.
Okay.
So
right. So it's like when this is how we understand things, and this is in our daily life. When we see cup or conceptualize cup, we know that it's not the book. We know that it's not anything else. We know that it's cup. So we understand implicitly that it's not anything other than cup, like it's not anything else.
저는 대하 고연데 아니 주저되다 퍼버디 다 타대인 바디 신기도.
And that's how we can see that things are distinct. That's how we can. So we know basically this cup and this book are separate, tate, distinct phenomena. And that's how we do it. Through knowing this cup is not the book and the book's not the cup, that's how we create this distinction.
네. 다디 원한도 시된 줘도 주 라라고 요라. 먼저 소외나 요 딘데리 다 세우스로 요라.
So this is in our daily life. This is how we function and clarify things. That's how we can clearly distinguish things in our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So just does that then mean where we say conceptual isolates of similar and dissimilar class? Does that mean this is a cup and that is a book? Is that
Yeah, okay, I'll ask. So this conceptual isolates of similar and dissimilar class, what's the meaning of that? So the Dokpa, the Rigton, Tan Rigmiton, the Kipakari.
Rigton, the Rigmiton said, 다당고 먼저 탭다 된다면 추다 멜라로 추라로 먼저 추나라 추 릭tumbo 망보 추용라 되네 아니 먼저 추차고요 랑바 차 추차고요 추다 릭tumbo 이제 주르르도 추차로 매다 릭tumbo 된데 차도 매차로고요 도스레 릭tumbo 코란 찍바
제디
릭tumbo 추임바 추찍바 망보 추용유 추차도 말아 근데 릭tumbo스데 코란 찍바이니 추기 제 찍바이니 망보 차도 추차로 매차로 어디라고
and then Rigmiton
사데 아니 단다 출렸더니 매디 추 링미튼 말이에요.
Oh, okay. So similar class means that you'd probably be getting to the substance. Maybe at this point you're coming to the molecular level. So the molecules of similar class form the actual substances, right? So a whole bunch of water substances, particles, molecules, whatever word, come together to make a bunch of water, right? That we can perceive as water, because the small substances individually we can't perceive, right? So that's similar class, and then dissimilar class is anything that's not water, basically. So a dissimilar class doesn't exist on its own. It's dissimilar to water or dissimilar to fire. Basically different. So fire is not water, right? So fire and water, so fire is a dissimilar class to water. So then, so obviously water is not fire, right?
So in a way, it does mean that this is the book, like this is water, it's similar, but it's not fire. Is it fire and similar in a way?
Yeah, but on a molecular level, right? So, di tondak di me tang chu tan deb tang papa di tatere di tondak dire or tate.
Tade shacho da tade shacho. Tade shacho de le ko de dubdan de shego. Ngobu susu dubdan de shego. De tade jigo tade de kona jigo de zam ga mare tando. Ngobu dubdan de shego ko.
Okay, yeah. So you could say yes, they're distinct, like this tate. But what you understand is the focus on how things come together, how they're established. Drup is to establish. You could almost say how they're made or composed or something like that in this context.
Oh yeah, that cup of tea. Biscuit.
Cool. We have distinct cups and distinct tea and distinct biscuits.
Online students a little bit. No, you can see the recipe. Recipe. What? Yeah. Just measure watching there. Just measure. Making a cup of tea. They're watching for us. And you can make your cup of tea. Okay, no problem. And maybe you have maybe your cookies. Okay, with your tea. Okay. The two types. One is bingo, one is bitter. Isn't it?
Yes.
I guess this is a bitter from bitter.
Yes.
This is from bingo. Okay. Oh, this is moon shape. Oh, this is sun and moon. Sun and moon. And tea is start. Stars. You make lotus. Oh yeah. And Anton Raza. Anton. No, forget Anton. Okay. Anton takes some more extra.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Lama sanje lama she ye lama ge de che bo lama ye lama na la che ba bo
To all gurus, I make this offering.
이다 tradition teaching la chayo래 발레요라. Now every Monday net tea in the beginning. But I said, no, okay, you know.
Yeah, as long as we get some good teaching.
Friends like it. Picnic, they'll spend all day at a teaching.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they listen. I mean, the monks listen very well, but the lay people sometimes they're just talking in the back.
No listening, teaching,
No,
talking.
they're just chatting, drinking. No picnic.
I think Rita's cookies are winning.
No, there's no winning, no winning.
Oh, very nice.
No, I think Bengo's much better. She should make them every Monday.
Yeah.
I insist your cookies are the best. You're terrible.
It's alright, you can both make them.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No. One do Monday, one do Wednesday. Don't worry. Isn't it? Online, who's online? Cat and Paul and the,
Dave and Norma and Paul and 3 more. Probably want to come.
Yeah, tell them they're missing out. If they're not coming here. Now every class we have nice cookies. Maybe they come.
Very nice. Both are very good.
Fundraising?
Fundraising. Last in India, you bring lots of cookies, isn't it? We eat a long time. You lived, today we have.
Yeah.
Lots of different shapes.
Yeah, all my mother made.
Really?
Maybe I helped. I think I helped.
You'll have to make examples of all the different shapes then.
Really nice people.
You had double tick.
Yeah, I think Bengo must practice more. She must do more.
Bingo is very good follower your recipe.
Well, yeah. Practice.
I think other people should make songs, so I'll choose which one I will practice. For example, didn't want to do the recipe. Little laugh.
You don't have really the corn bread.
It's called first choice.
Oh, scone.
Cheese curd. Yummy.
Maybe Peter sometimes making Tibetan breakfast morning.
Boiled eggs.
And potatoes.
We could nominate Paul. We could nominate Paul to make something.
Who?
Paul, we'll all vote for Paul.
Paul? Who's not here?
Yeah.
Here, Paul is here.
We'll
Sorry,
vote for
Paul
him.
too. What did he make?
I don't know, who's asking.
He's good at cooking, savoury things. Sure about baking. And he usually does the baking. In good house.
다 지치라 됐어. 제가 기신 지도사라. 기신 지도라. 다 되는 제가 됐어라.
Looking at universal and particulars, we've covered off universal. Now we're going to look a bit at particulars.
다지는 그냥 책디 코데워스랑 삼단 찔라도 캡쳐야 돼. 지랄라도 캡충하더래. 다가나래다.
Okay, so the easy way to understand it is the universal pervades more. There's more pervasive or pervades more, and the particular pervades less.
Pena
Pervade,
poba di
maybe
jire ra.
covers less is probably better in this context.
Poba di jire ra.
Yeah.
다 포바 충중 포바 첨부도 지라를 캡중어라. 포발라도 캡 포바 담은 로다.
Okay.
아니 포바 담은 여러 이게 지라셔서.
So if you take the universal cup as a universal, then it covers big cup, small cup, blue cup, green cup, etc. Any variety of cup.
다디 삼르나라 유나 너네 투야요 말 지라 라더라.
So if you understand it like that, like this covers or pervades, if you understand it in that way, then you don't get confused with this universal in particular.
다 지라게 진이들에 지라게 진이
Oh.
캡제도 주고 와서 캡제도 주고 랑기 리기에 최 지라 좀 오래. 캡제도 주고 랑기 리기에 최 어디 남는 되겠다.
The definition of a particular, it's on page 173 at the top. A phenomena that has a type that operates as its pervader.
아 진신이 따보다 미다보다 사다 취다 메다 롱다 사오샤다 다 취다빌 전화세 배 취다빌 전화 취디 아니 랑라 캡제도 주고 랑기 리기에 뭐래스 취라 뭐버디 축이 캡지래 아니 뭐 축하나 캡자래 제가 캡지 쓰라서 다 뭐버디 출려되네 뭐버디 캡치아워 돼서 되죠 봐 추디 뭐베 지라래다
Okay.
추디 캡충으로 봐 뭐베 캡치아로서 제가 추디 뭐베 지라차자 가되이나 캡차디 지차로 캡충으로 지라차다 단단 뭐보다 출려잖아 디차서 니 뭐버디 캡치어 차서 하디 술을 주고 그랬으나 출래 캡자도 주고도 와 아니 추디다 지라차로도 어디래다 빼내디 샤다.
So examples could include permanent phenomena, impermanent phenomena, earth, water, fire, and so on. We may illustrate the relationship of a pervader and pervaded. So he's using pervade for this word kub in Tibetan. In the context of, say, water, this exists something that operates as the pervader of water, such as thing, and since water is necessarily a thing, thing is the pervader, while water is the pervaded. Thus, things is the type, and the water is the token of the type, namely thing. Okay, so this word thing, first of all, nobo means functional phenomena, functional thing, basically. So you've got to understand when they use the word thing here, it means functional thing or impermanent thing. So then we have thing and we have water. So water is pervaded by thing because water is a thing or is a functional thing, is an impermanent thing. So that means that water is thing is the pervader and water is what's pervaded, because essentially water is a thing, but a thing is not necessarily water. So the thing covers more than just water, but water is a thing. I mean, does that make sense? Is it clear?
다 다가가나 진시 다가가나 딜 제주 숨탕으로 했어.
Yep.
제주 숨탕으로 했어.
Yeah.
제주 당부 가서나 다 추딩 5분이로.
Yeah.
추 5보다 다직들 때 아니 추 많이시 5에 배시도 마요. 제주 숨대 상고다.
So then moving down a little bit, it talks about the what's he translated as positing a pillar is a particular token of a noble object. Kegyo sum. Well,
시제단 가월자다 다른 말하시는
no, did kande gyogire the kegyo kande gyo, something to be a particular pervaded. Well, there's three aspects to a pervader pervading something. So the first, here they use pillar and noble object, but since we're using water and things, so we say water is a thing. Water is intrinsically related to things. There exist many things that share a common locus between that which is not a pillar and a knowable object. Kyoma Yinxing. Yeah, okay, that's cool. I mean, it's a complex way of saying it, but yeah. Yeah, that. So sorry, my mouth's full. I can't talk. So you'll have to wait. It's pretty tasty. Yeah. Right. So the first one is pretty easy, right? Like water is a thing, functional thing, because the definition of functional thing in Tonche Nupa, that which has the power or that which is able to perform a function. So clearly water is that. Water is able to perform a function, so therefore it's a functional thing. So pretty straightforward, the first one. Right. So the second one, water is intrinsically related to knowable object. Water is intrinsically related to thing. So this is saying that it's one entity, is a translation he used. So we talked about that a little bit before, but basically between the water and functional thing, like when you directly perceive water, you perceive the functional aspect of water. Like you could also say the functional aspect of water, when water appears, the functional aspect of water appears. You could also say something like the impermanence of water appears if you used water and impermanence in this example. So takchik di
다징 데로하고 그니 다징 데로 우리는 타데로와 징마로 그니
그래 takchik
타데로와 다 다징 데로와 저와 그래도래라나 무메나 추메고 해서다.
Okay, so when we say takchik chudro intrinsically related takchik, so this tug is to say that, so I guess this would be related? No, intrinsically. So intrinsically basically means they're distinct in this case. So like water and functional thing, they're distinct. Tato, they're not the same, they're distinct. And then the connection, so the relationship is that if you eliminate functional thing, you automatically eliminate water. If there's no functional things, there's no water. So that's clear. But parts of drogi mara, right?
Pazu droma. Chu mena ngo meo marwa.
Yeah.
Ngo mena chidan kyap chewa di mena chunga.
Yeah.
Chi di mena chida
But
meo
it's not both directions. For example, if you eliminate water, you don't eliminate functional things. It's if you eliminate the bigger pervader, you eliminate the smaller one. But if you eliminate the smaller pervader, you don't necessarily eliminate the bigger pervader.
Adi sumba di leang gore. Chu mayin ngobo yingi yorwa. Chu mayin ngobo yingi poba cha me da mangbodo mi ri sa chu rida da kazu yorero.
Yeah, so the last one, I mean, it's complicated here. There exist many things which do not share a common locus between that which is not a pillar and a knowable object. Basically means there are a variety of things. Duma doesn't necessarily mean many, it just means more than one. So variety. Of things that are not water that are functional things. Like trees and cars, any other impermanent phenomena that's not water, basically. So it clearly goes through this in the book. So if we go through the book, it's easy.
시줍제로 시작하라 그래. 가와는 하고 오라 빌러와. 안델라 자베이나 다 제주 당보디 가와 시자인 조성아. 제주 니와디 가와 시자당 다직들이 제주 니와디 조성아. 어디지? 다 가와 만시 시자인 베시두마 두마 예베치서 어디? 다 제주 숨디 탕 진짜다 가와디 시제시라레스. 다들 마 베제데 말로시다 지글로시다 세우자가.
가와 만시
시자인기 여러 포바다.
두마 주베치. This translation's a bit funny for the third one, so I'll go over it. We're going to go through the book and what it says here. So this uses the example of pillar and knowable object. So knowable object is synonymous with established base or phenomena in general. So a pillar is a knowable object. That's pretty straightforward. We know a pillar is a phenomena, or is an object of knowledge. A pillar is intrinsically related to knowable object. Well, we know that it's of the same nature as phenomena. That's pretty straightforward. And then the third one, there's I'm going to do another translation. So Kawama Yinsheng there are many things which are not pillar or there are a variety of things that are not pillar which can be established as being a phenomena or an object of knowledge. Does that make more sense? It's more simple. The Tibetan words are way more simple than this translated. So there are many things. There's a variety of things that are not pillar which can be established to be an object of knowledge.
지리 지라 뒤중한테 책들 어디 지라리 뒤지리 슬래시도다 어디 타나 지지라데다 제당한테 뒤 탄다디 셴베는 어느 책들도 배제시도 빼야고 용거라.
So if you understand this is how we establish something as being a universal or a particular, so when we talk about universal in particular, we're talking about it concordant with these three aspects, right? So it's good to understand this behind, because then when you talk about universals and particulars, you understand that this is essentially what's being referred to.
그래서 이제 책이 탄다데 하마거나 아니 책이 다 명디 다면들 조용 거다. 조도에네 maybe confuse 차용 거다.
Yeah, so like if you don't understand the meaning behind it, the simple words on their own can have many connotations. Like if you don't know this and we just talk about universal in particular, you could come up with any idea of what's meant.
단다 나랑서 늪절에이나 나랑서 추조 미 구르랑도 상가 구르라고도 티베 노르 상가라디 타와다 아니기 되젠데라 상가라고라 먼저 상가라디라 상가게 미닝디 라웨이나 하고이나 타와다 아니 속바들 상가라고라 상가 구르라고라.
Yeah, so
다디야 주조가실라 상가스도 아상가스도요 파고라 거야 된대요라. 다단다디 먼저디 파베기 뉴스야디 딜로 거고요. 타와다 아니 속바들 상가사 긴뉴스야 거고라. 가서 늪죠 미 최저기 정말랑 아주 상가 라기도 다 민디 배 룩사다 마
Right, so like this happens a lot. Like in the West, they refer to like anybody who's part of the center as being the sangha. This is actually not correct. Sangha is monks and nuns, a group of monks and nuns, monks or nuns or both. That's what actually is meant by sangha. And then as you go up and you talk about Arya Sangha, that's like a different meaning again, right? But the Sangha is just the monks and nuns. But here it's used just to mean anybody who's part of the spiritual community. So yeah, this is not really the real meaning of the word. Yeah, so it's better not to use it like that, because then the meaning of the word becomes confused. Right. Right. So if you're talking about a community of monks and nuns, like a monastery for nunnery, for example, then you can say that's sangha. But when we just sort of say, everybody at the center, well, there's not many of us are monks and nuns, so we can't really say we're sangha. So this is not a monastery; it's a center, right? It's different. So you can't really say we're sangha.
First I heard this confusing, our sangha guru. Wow. How many do you have sangha? They don't have one sangha. They sit there and we are our sangha guru. Oh. I
was a bit confused at that point.
Sangha community, sangha guru lagdo.
Yeah, when they said, "Oh, all our sangha," is like, well, how many sangha do you have? I don't see any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
다 줌제 가르서는 시제디 지레 콜레시라 지인배 줌제 가르서는 지인데 콜레시라 여외질라는 데요. 지라요는 그 지인원. 시제시라다 당기 가와샤송아 추샤송아 모고샤송 망고샤도.
예.
다 가와 시제디 지라마인데 로. 다 당기 지라 지주숨디 상하요 말에. 제주 담아니 시제마인시 시제인배 시도 말아요 말 시도는 시제미 차라.
네.
어디 제주 숨나 직상교요 뭐 제가 시제디다 지라 최고 말에.
So looking at the next one, things that are generalities or universals, and not particulars, we take objects of knowledge. So we can say the reasoning behind this is, okay, you can definitely say object of knowledge is a universal because it has particulars. And we've established that. We talked about water, we talked about a pillar, but there's many others, permanent, impermanent phenomena. All of these can be, well, sorry, not all, but they can be said to be the particular of a of established base, right? Or object of knowledge. However, you can't say that it's a particular because there's nothing which is not it. So it doesn't fulfill the third one. Nothing fulfills the third aspect, right? There's nothing which you could say like is so if you use phenomena, for example, you can't say there's nothing which is a phenomena which is not an established base. So you can't find anything that fulfills the third aspect. Does that make sense? There's nothing which exists that's not an established base. So you can't find anything that isn't an established base. So you can never find a variety of things that can be established as not being an established base because there's nothing which exists that is not an established base. So give us another one. So another one that's universal but not a particular. Yeah. Family.
Family loves it.
Family, yeah.
Family di jiri chida mayin la gora.
So is family universal, but it's not. So wait, chi Karichi?
지인게 지라마인게.
Oh, sorry. We want something that's universal that's not a particular.
family.
So family, you're saying it's a universal and not a particular. Okay.
지라로.
It's a particular.
지라래. 콜레. 지라래. family를 지라만 고여라.
Yeah, there's many different
family
types.
춘주, family harmony,
You're gonna-
family
yeah,
disharmony.
you can have a big family, you can have a functional family, you can have a dysfunctional family. It's a universal. It's both. We're saying something that's a universal that's not a particular.
Okay, so
야, 네, 이거, 네 양보 샤, 이거.
No, it is a
샤오라.
It is a particular. It's a universal and a particular. So it's both. So chi yinkin shidrak ma yinkin, right? Look at it. So what's something that's a universal but not a particular?
나직 샤.
Sure. Give us an example. Is it?
야, come. 챗. online.
space.
나가 지인게 지라만 있어라.
Space, yeah.
나가 지인 하나인 있어라. 지인 지라만 이게. 지라로.
Chirere.
지라래. 그 시제 지라로.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a particular as well. You can have space in the west, space in the east, space. There's many.
너 지라래. 지다인 버세로.
Yeah, chi and it's also
지라만
particular.
인게들 나가 지라로.
Yeah, but so it's a particular because it's a particular of phenomenal, particular of established space. Yeah.
야. What?
A book, a cup, a chair,
What's that?
impermanent. A book, a cup, a chair, and impermanent.
What, the four of them together?
No, 4 different.
Ah, so Len Shi Yure, Deb Tang, Popa Tang, Mitakpa, and what's the
이게 상마 지다 지라 니가인.
yeah, they're both universals and particulars.
니가인. 이게 상마 지를 지라를 니가래.
Yeah. Impermanence is both a universal and a particular, yes.
좋아, 지라로 와.
It's a particular, yes.
지라는 콜 지. 뭐왜 지라로. 그래서 임파만들이 시제 지라래.
Yeah, it's a particular of phenomena, it's a particular of established space.
다지라.
So another one?
시자.
You can say Shecha is object of knowledge, or established space, or
시두.
phenomena, established space, all of these things. Anything that's synonymous with phenomena basically is
저 탐절을 잡더니 지라샤요 맞다.
they're universals but not particulars.
다
But do you understand that?
다고서
You don't look like you understand it. Put it that way. Okay. Yang di lab di Junsen.
빼나 시자여라 시자.
Yeah.
시자여라. 시제의 찌리에서라. 지인배 준대 가라서나 콜 지라여라.
Yeah.
뭐보다 미다고도 샤저라.
So first thing is, why is it a universal? Established, but we'll just use phenomena because that's the more familiar term. Phenomena is a universal because it has particulars, like cup, pillar, impermanence, permanence. They're all particulars of phenomena. Do you understand that? Yeah, we're clear there? It just generally everybody needs to understand that.
되네 지라 말이다.
Yeah, but
지라
it's,
마인데 다 시자 마인기 최신다 요 말아. 로. 저는 반대편에 최라인 바지 난 최라인 바지라.
yeah, concept of
최라나 최라비나 다 최마인기 최요 말이다. 지루나 최에 차로. 저는 뒤도사요 말다.
So it's not a particular because there is nothing that exists that is not it. Right? Phenomena, there's nothing that exists that's not a phenomena. So nothing can be its particular because you can't say, well, there's various things which are phenomena that are not phenomena, or there's various things which are established space that are not phenomena, or there's various things that are cup which are not phenomena. None of that works. Is emptiness not a phenomena? So there are many things that are not that are emptiness that are not phenomena. Is that what you're saying? There are many things that are emptiness that are not phenomena. That doesn't work,
요
right?
말에. 저랑 말이 돼.
Yeah, no, so emptiness doesn't work.
This phenomena chöra.
Yeah, the chema yenshin tompan yin yang yinkin tuma drup di
Yomare.
Yeah, the third one isn't fulfilled.
chö 마인기 동반이 거예요. 동반이 있는 chö에 메카라.
Yeah, so if it's emptiness, it has to be a phenomena.
음.
Anything that's emptiness is the emptiness of anything that is a phenomena.
아디 세우자서.
So is that clear? Okay.
다 저다인게 찌마인게.
Okay, so now something that's a particular, right? That's not a universal.
배나 얘나 가와도 벌라다. 배나 추다 메샤.
Yeah, so they use pillar pot, but fire water is probably better.
추다 메니디 군이라 데려와서 저다로 군이. 저다 가라서나 뭐베 저다로. 라 뭐베 저다로.
Okay, so these he says impossible phenomena in the book, but that's not a good. But anyway, we'll go through it. There is nothing. So fire, water, the combinant fire and water, the two, they are a functional thing. They're a thing. They're a particular of thing.
저다게 제주숨도 상하다.
Because they fulfill the three aspects of being a particular of.
배나 추다 메디 스위치라서 뭐베 저다로.
Yeah. So who's it a particular of? It's a particular functional thing.
당연히 제주숨 상하래. 추다 메니 뭐보니 추다 메고 다직들 추다 메 마인시 뭐보인게 망고 여러와 디다다래서.
So it goes through three things because fire water is a functional thing. Fire water is intrinsically related to knowable object, or is one nature with functional thing, is one nature with one entity with functional thing. There exist many things that are not fire water that are functional thing, right? That's obvious. So it fulfills the three.
다 지마래다. 지마래 군인이를 지라요 말다. 지마래다. 그러. 지마인데 군인 지라요 말다. 매단 춘일을 지라요 말해. 매단 춘일 지라요는 매단 춘이 잉해지요로 요 말다.
So there's nothing. It's not a particular because there's nothing which fulfills the first one. There's nothing which is actually fire water. There's nothing which is both fire water. Yeah, you know, concert.
매인게 추인게 용식 말하고 값인게 대비인게 용식 말하고 어디 임미시라고 그래.
So he translates this yinpemesibisheja as impossible phenomena, but it's more like yinpemesibisheja. It's a phenomena that's not possible to be, right? Impossible is not this translation I particularly don't find useful, right? It's a phenomena that's not possible because it's not impossible because it's a function thing. Fire water, but it's not possible to be because there's nothing which is both fire water, right? You can't have something which is both fire and water. So therefore, it's an phenomena that is not possible to be, right? Because it's there's nothing which can be both fire and water. So do you understand what this phenomena that's not possible to be means?
Sorry, actually, did you say fire, water is a functional thing?
Yes.
So that thing that cannot be, how can that be a functional thing? If it's not possible to be fire, water, how can it be functional? So if it's something that's not possible to be, like fire, water, then how can it be a functional thing? So the chume nobo kandere the tonje nuba marero the misipa then tonje nuba mare.
Dira 추다 매니 여러 추고란 리시오를 매고란 사시세고 제거를 내가 지금도 안돼 누가 아니.
Yeah.
이나 군이 여나 임바 여 말하고 임바 미시바 여러 어디라고.
So it works like this. Fire is a functional thing. Water is a functional thing. So then fire, water is a functional thing. But there's nothing which can be that thing. Right? So... right, okay. I'll just say that me and you, both functional things, right? So me and you is a functional thing, but there's nothing which is both me and you. Does that make sense? No different.
Yeah, well, it does make sense.
Yeah, it's strange. It's used a lot in debate.
맞아, 데 틱디 코카오를 채면서 단다 유야도들이 니니 인민도 하대.
Yeah. So it's like these two cups, right? Or the cup in the book. The cup in the book. They both exist. They're both functional things. But there's nothing which is both of them. It's like we read from the book and we drink from the cup. We don't read from the cup and drink from the cup book, which we read and drink from is a bit... Cup book, we should make a cup book.
Maybe now 2000 or maybe 5,000 then come cup book. 5,000 years.
5,000 years they might have a cup. I don't know why anybody would want a cup book. But anyway.
Cup book. Maybe.
Just glue them together.
다들 시제 인버시베 시제 인버 간실라 마디 여러 제라그릭도 사무샤는 리로 보바 주주메 당기샤 주랑 샤게 사무레다.
Something which is both is easy, you know, like anything that's not the pervador like established base that exists like a cup or a book. Generally speaking, those will all be universals and particular. Right, like you can understand that, right?
디시네나 펜도카레요 레스토랑 먼저 디치치라신 신도요 먼저 제가 먼저 점블링기 디 고육숨교다 저도 계신보래 디치딜 네버도는 먼저 치라 누구요 제가 디 먼저 초회날 디 리버디 다요 먼저 체사 자체사를 삼당고 되게 수수지고 삼당만 되지 미 자체사를 점블링기 미당 점블링기 고육숨교를 삼당비나 아니 먼저 점블링난 대대위나 수술 펜도고요. 다 수술 찍어서 점블링디 남이 다샤위나 아니 점블링 고육라 남시 줘도나 아니 먼저 님들 강에도 와. 지딜라는 제대로 누구였다. 와, 지.
Okay.
제가 지디 개정 거래.
environment right.
예. 점블링디 먼저 캡처를 와. 먼저 남시 뉴질랜드 남시 있고 제대로 와. Zumbling namshi Jordan, New Zealand namshi Jordan.
Okay, so it's useful in our daily life. Like when we look at understanding, this is useful in terms of when we look at things. Whatever affects the universal affects the particular. So if we look at the environment, right, we can have various different, like the New Zealand environment or weather or whatever environment. Generally, you could say New Zealand. Doesn't exist in isolation, right? So if we don't have this understanding, we think, oh, we just exist by ourselves and we do our own thing and everything will be cool. But we're actually very affected by the global environment. So what happens in the rest of the world affects our ecosystem and our environment here, right? So the global environment affects the various individual environments of the different countries. Which are the particulars. Right. So if there's no peace and harmony on a global scale, then it's individuals struggle to find peace and harmony. Right? So if there's no compassion and loving kindness in the center, then it's difficult, you know, for the individuals there. So, you know, understanding this, learning this can help you think in a vaster way.
We sit off here now. Nice cup of tea and cake. Oh, cookie. Next, you Wednesday, the God, you're homo or homo. home relax. Tanda chiragi cheju sumdo. And the ne chikona ingi, chira kona ingi, ningai or chikona ingi, chira kona ingi, chida ningai ingi to. But yes, Yawachan.
So what for the homework you should learn about those three aspects that make up a particular, and then think of things that are only universals and not particulars, and things that are only particulars and not universal, and then things that are both universals and particulars. So be clear on those.
No, they do.
Okay, that'll keep you out of trouble.
Page 31. Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created, by paying homage, offering, and acknowledging my pose, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the three times, so that I might perform the noble bodhisattva's deeds. May the key of Dharma Sokarpa's way of Dharma practice flourish. May the omens of obstacles be pacified, and all the conducive circumstances be complete. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Saviour of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is unification of emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subduous moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. By relying on the two accumulations of myself and others in the three times, may the teachings of the conqueror Losang Dragpa